What up, Cavs Nation? I'm your host, Ethan Sands, and I'm back with another episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. And joining me today, Jimmy Watkins. And it's time to get into questions that we received from our subtext subscribers. And the first one comes from Matt in Nashville. Is Lonzo considered 100% heading into training camp? From everything that I've heard, from everything that I've seen, Lonzo Ball is at 100% when it comes to this coming season and how he is preparing for the year. There's been videos circulating of him in Tremont walking around different establishments, getting initiated or instilled in the culture of Cleveland, Ohio. He's definitely seeming like a guy that is excited for the season, seeming like a guy who's ready to make an impact on his first true contending team in his NBA career because of what that means for the spotlight on him and what it can prove. Jimmy, what do you think about Lonzo Ball's health and how it can change the trajectory of what the Cavs are doing? We talked a little bit about him earlier, but I think what he means to this organization, what he means to this team in particular is important.
First of all, I want to shout out Tremont, the coolest neighborhood in Cleveland. That's where I live. Come say what's up. But the Lonzo thing, yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, the trajectory that needs to change is the trajectory of Lonzo Ball's health. Okay? The guy has played 70 games over the last 4 NBA seasons. That's a lot of time missed. Okay? And I know that most of that time was for one specific knee injury, whereas when he returned last year, ESPN wrote a story about how basically Lonzo was thinking his career might be over, and then they threw this Hail Mary surgery out there, and it seemed to work. I guess it worked because he played last year, but he only played 35 games, and he had a wrist injury. So it's different. We do this thing with Lonzo Ball coming into the team where it's a good thing that he only played 35 games last year because he only played 35 games last year for a completely unrelated injury, I guess. But the whole thing is like, he's never been durable, like, at all. It was one knee injury for 2 years, which is bad, 2.5 years. But before then, 2017-18, 52 games. 2018-19, 47 games. 63 games is this man's career best. 55 games with the Pelicans the year before that. First, if you think that one not even half season assuages all fears about the knee, I got some beachfront property in Idaho to sell you. I mean, I don't mean to be glib about this stuff, but I'm not over the knee stuff yet. We saw very small. I'm so happy that he got to play basketball at all because, as I've said before, as I've written about this topic, I love watching Lonzo Ball play basketball. He plays basketball in a really cool way. He's one of the most unselfish players in the NBA. He's a really cool defensive player. He figured out his shot. He can be an incredible piece. If Lonzo Ball is healthy, to answer the original question real quick, Ethan, he can be the missing piece. He is such a gap filler, and not just on defense where he's great at playing the gaps, but whatever your basketball team needs, literally whatever your basketball team needs, except for like beating dudes off the dribble and going to the rim. Those days are probably past him, if not for because he's lost a lot of burst, because he's lost a lot of trust in that knee, and I get it. But pretty much everything else you need to do on a basketball court, Lonzo Ball can do it. He's an incredible rebounder for his position. He's a great passer. He is a one-man fast break. He's an incredible defensive player on off ball. I think he's a great presence for some of these younger players to have around him. I think he'll be well received in the locker room. He's the rare role player who can actually relate to a star player's level of fame. Lonzo Ball and Donovan Mitchell understand things about each other's world that even most NBA players don't understand. They think they do, but it's a different level when you're as famous as those guys. He can be everything. And he can help the Cavs win a championship. Seriously. His health can be the difference between them winning a championship and not this year. But that's the whole thing because the dude's never healthy. I don't trust the knee yet. And even if you do trust the knee, it seems like the dude's made of glass everywhere else. And I'm hoping that somehow he's turned a corner and found a regimen that works for him. Because again, I love Lonzo Ball. I just don't trust him to stay healthy.
We've talked a lot about culture on this podcast, and you mentioned it there to me a little bit about how Donovan Mitchell and Lonzo can relate to each other's stardom. But Lonzo's just a fun dude. Like, a great dude to be around. Like, if you watch, he's got TikTok, Instagram, all these things. Like, he just puts out funny video after funny video. You watch his podcast, it's a funny episode after funny episode. You got, like, all of his video promotions that he's doing. I think it's like Google Pixel or something, like, for the phones and stuff. That was a great video too, showcasing Tremont again. I just think he fits and meshes well with what the Cavs internally want to do, and also has the professionalism on the court to be able to change between, okay, we're having fun in the locker room, we're celebrating what we do, and also, I'm a serious ball player and I want to do what it takes to win championships. Because, Jimmy, the best way to counteract all of the negativity surrounding him about his knee, about his play style, about all of these different things, winning a championship, that shuts everybody up. That calms all the narratives around Lonzo Ball, around Donovan Mitchell, around conversations that we've had in previous podcasts about this entire situation over the next 2 seasons that is pivotal for the Cleveland Cavaliers as a franchise. So the decision for Lonzo Ball made a whole lot of sense because of what he can do on the court offensively and defensively to counteract the loss of Ty Jerome, the loss of Isaac Okoro, but also understanding that it was a cultural fit. That's kind of the direction that the Cleveland Cavaliers organization has continuously gone when it comes to players and acquisitions over the last few seasons. It's, we don't only want you to fit our scheme, but we want you to fit our culture, fit our players, fit our guys. And that's extremely apparent in the move to get Lonzo Ball. I'm a big fan of it. I think he's going to be great this year, especially in a role where the Cavs understand what he needs to do limitations-wise, potentially not playing in every back-to-back, potentially playing in no back-to-backs when it comes to Lonzo and how that could shape his health. Or, especially with Darius Garland and Max Strus out, testing what he is capable of and then allowing him to rest up a little bit more when those guys return. I think there's 2 options for Kenny Atkinson to use in that sense. I'm interested to see what he does with Lonzo because, Jimmy, I'm in complete agreement. I think he can be the game changer, series changer, season changer for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But last question coming from Daniel in Seattle, who asks, what specific goals do you think Kenny Atkinson has for himself and his staff this season? And I don't mean winning games or playoffs or championships. Jimmy, I'm going to let you dive right in on this one.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't think coaches think of things this way. They think their goals are their players' goals and their team's goals. But if I were to say something that what should Kenny's goal be, I would say a really impressive accomplishment to me for Kenny this year would be keeping this team engaged and on the tracks during the regular season. Like, if the Cavs regular season this year looks anything like last year's, that would be a real coaching accomplishment. Because this regular season is all about finding new ways to motivate guys. Because, as you might have heard a few Cavs players say, it doesn't mean anything. They can't change the narrative. But there's nothing other than the general joy of playing basketball professionally, which that should count for a lot, right? There's not a carrot to chase for the Cavs this regular season. Okay, you can say they would, chase home court throughout the playoffs. They had it last year. Look where it got them. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. It just didn't. To prove people wrong, you can't do that. There's no motivation. Like, you can't. You will prove 0 people wrong. You win 70 games this year. People will be like, all right, but we're still. I mean, that would be impressive. People are like, oh crap, the Cavs took another step. But then when the playoffs started, they'd be like, so what's going on here? Like, round 2, you got the magic round 2. Let's say. You sure? These guys took you to 7 2 years ago.
Yeah, and Jimmy, to your point, especially because the Max Strus conversation, they were so successful in their first 27 games, didn't have Max Strus those first 27 games last year. Likely not going to have him for a little bit longer this year.
Yeah, and Darius for a little while.
Correct. And then the conversation turns, well, do you need these guys?
Exactly. So there's going to be a motivation vacuum that I think will be very difficult to fill. So that's one thing. I think if Kenny can, that's a like real coach's coach kind of challenge and goal to set is maintain that level of engagement from a team that has few incentives to remain. The other thing is the East sucks. So the Cavs are going to walk in to most of these games as, conservatively 6-7 point favorites. So there's more incentive to just go through the motion and win games. And what's the point of this? What's the point of this? That's interesting. The other thing, I think we talked about it, get that defensive mentality back. Really become a defense first team and check yourself. Know your own tendencies. Recognize, Kenny, that you lean a little on the spectrum of basketball. You lean one way. You like offense. Maybe check that a little bit. Intentionally give Dean Wade some more run. Give DeAndre Hunter more defensive responsibility. Sure, play him more in general, but more defensive responsibility. DeAndre Hunter in general, that could be a nice coaching staff project. Get him more comfortable. Again, you just told his best friend to kick rocks, so he might not feel the most comfortable right now, but get him where he needs to be. Fit him into your ecosystem. I think you can teach ball-stoppy DeAndre Hunter to move the ball. I think that's totally possible. Do that. I think that's interesting. And then, of course, Evan Mobley. Season-long goal. The season-long goal is to win a championship. And if you win a championship, that means Evan Mobley took another leap. So, from a play, Kenny is a down-and-dirty player development coach at heart. I think that's how he built his staff. And the most important player development project, maybe in the entire NBA, short of Wemby and Cooper Flagg, is Evan Mobley. So do everything you can to empower Evan Mobley. Maybe take more control of the reins from Donovan Mitchell. Right? We've had this conversation before. There is a conflict of interest, in my opinion, between the style the Cavs deployed last year, which Kenny's just you guys take the wheel. By design, his offensive system is player-focused, player-led. There's no stringent play calls. There are just actions, and it's a read and react type deal. But in times of stagnancy, take more control and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Evan Mobley gets the ball. Last year we were saying, it doesn't really matter who has the steering wheel to the car. But if you have specific stated goals, you have target points you're trying to hit with Evan Mobley, well, then maybe you take the wheel from Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland sometimes. If they're incredible players, they should have the ball as much as they want. But for the purpose of this basketball team getting where it needs to, Evan Mobley needs the ball a little bit more. So just take it from him every now and then. Those are a few things that I could think of.
My top one for Kenny Atkinson, I think, is going to be a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense in the NBA, which would obviously match both of Jimmy's points, being able to improve the defensive identity of this team, but also maintaining the offensive identity of this team, which is kind of what leads to playoff success, right? If you're good on both ends of the floor, but also understanding that DeAndre Hunter needs to be acclimated into the offense. DeAndre Hunter needs to be one of the most important players on this team, especially if he's going to stick in the 6-man role. And obviously, again, Evan Mobley has to be initiated into the offense as much as possible, maybe touching the ball every time down the floor, if possible. But the overall thing when it comes to that is aggressive mentality, the assertiveness to keep your foot on teams' necks, to continue to push the narrative forward, to keep pushing the ball forward, to keep pushing the opposing team. Kind of like what Tristan Thompson said after the Golden State Warriors game, where they had the best half in the Cavs franchise history. You took the foot off the gas. You did not finish the game how you started it. And that's not indicative of what kind of team the Cavs want to be or can be, especially in the playoffs, because of how important it is to keep the metal going forward, especially after we saw the Indiana Pacers series, where you would get off to a good start and then you would get drained because you're not used to going that hard in the second half. It hurts you immensely when it comes to the style of play that the Cavs have, and also how good they were last year, and not being sucked into that again, and keeping the camaraderie high, right? Keeping the chemistry high, keeping this team together, keeping this team as one is going to be important as well, because if things go awry, there's going to be a lot of questions, There's going to be a lot of hard questions for this team during the season. And there's a tendency when that happens, especially from a young-ish team, to then start turning on each other and not necessarily blaming one another outright, but not taking accountability. And I think as much as Kenny Atkinson wants to take accountability for how his team plays, you also have to understand the reality of, well, sometimes it's not on you. Sometimes it's on the players, and you don't necessarily have to call them out. But if a player tries to push the narrative somewhere else, you have to make him take accountability for his actions, for his mistakes, for whatever happens in this season. And that kind of goes in hand with the assertiveness, like not as free flowing as it was last year, but more assertive, more pushy, more understanding of what is to come, the stakes involved, in the importance, again, of these next 2 years. And we talk about Kenny Atkinson has a long leash with his organization because of what he did in year one. If things don't go the Cavs' way in the next 2 years, Kenny Atkinson, you might not be safe either.
Well, we all know how the coaching thing works. So what have you done for me lately business? And it's kind of like running a business where it's never good enough to just be good. You always have to be better, right? Because if you're not getting better, then to the layman, what is the coach doing? Especially the player development coach. This, development is always happening, right? So yeah, to your point, that's and just basic NBA rules. If you're losing playoff series you're not supposed to lose, that's bad for everyone's job security. Okay. I also wonder if Kenny would just want a little more. Not that anyone ever wants to lose or anything, but just would love to see a few more bumps in the road this regular season. Because last year was kind of like a fever dream. I mean, they had a couple of mini losing streaks, though they looked tired at times, and those were often explained by their schedule also. But that's not real adversity. The Cavs faced essentially zero real adversity last year, and then we saw in the playoffs what happened when they encountered real adversity. They weren't ready for it. Now, I think when the Cavs do encounter some this is another lose-lose. This is a regular season filled with lose-loses for the Cavs. If the Cavs, lose 5 in a row, 6 in a row, it's one point this regular season, and they say, this is good, this will help us learn something for the playoffs when we're down, I think fans will roll their eyes and say, you idiots, nothing can replicate the playoffs in the regular season. And I tend to agree with that, but I'd rather face some adversity than no adversity when I'm trying to test my guys to see how they respond to it. Does that make sense?
1,000%. Adversity is a good thing, right? Because, again, it's a privilege to have so many eyes on you, right? The Cavs have asked for nationally televised games. You have 24 of them this year. And we also know if they play well, more could be added to that slate, right? You have eyes on you now. You have a bullseye on your back in the Eastern Conference that understands that you think that you are the best team in the East. They're going to try and prove you wrong, right? So you are going to get every team's best. But how do you respond if you don't? How do you respond if you lose, right? And I just think it's important for this Cavs team to show their mental toughness. The word for this team is maturity. I think Kenny Atkinson would be extremely happy if that elevated to some degree this season when it came to not just Donovan Mitchell trying to figure out if he wants to give the reins to Evan Mobley or not, but Darius Garland, improve your maturity. Evan Mobley, speak up, improve your maturity. Jared Allen, speak up on the floor, improve your maturity, right? And that all ties into mental toughness and what is important for this team to grow. The biggest area coming off of last year's playoffs was we are not tough enough. Well, show me you're tough enough. Show me something changed. Show me something inside of you understands that there needed to be a change and that you applied that this offseason. Going back to one of our subtexters questions, sports psychologist, training, work ethic, whatever it needed to be for that individual player, and it's different for every player, show me you applied something this offseason to get yourself to the next level mental toughness, physical toughness, could have been in the gym, whatever. Things needed to change this offseason for the Cavs to get to where they want to go. Did they? We'll see. But with all that being said, that'll wrap up today's episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. But remember to become a Cavs insider and interact with Chris, me, and Jimmy by subscribing to Subtext. Sign up for a 14-day free trial or visit cleveland.com/Cavs and click on the blue bar at the top of the page. If you don't like it, that's fine. All you have to do is text the word stop. It's easy. We can tell you that the people who signed up stick around, because this is the best way to get insider coverage on the Cavs from me, Chris, and Jimmy. This isn't just our podcast, it's your podcast. And the only way to have your voice heard is through Subtext. Y'all be safe. We out.